Big escalation in Israel-Hezbollah war. Israel strikes Hezbollah targets. Lebanon ground invasion soon?
More than 2,000 strikes had been carried out by the Israel during last 3 days only.
The only channel reporting from the Lebanese war zone.
Israel has now decided that they are going to make ground invasion in Lebanon. If that happens, that will not only keep this war limited between Hamas, Israel and Hezbollah, but it will expand further.
India today at Ground Zero, Lebanon.
And look at these visuals behind me. These are Israeli Merkava tanks, their armored personal carriers and their vehicles all poised to enter Lebanon. These are in northern Israel. According to Lebanon, 700 people have been killed already. Airstrikes continue even as we speak. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We'll get you all the details. India Today's Ashraf Bani reports from Ground Zero. Are the Israeli Defense Forces now poised for a ground offensive? That big story here on India Today. The IDF or the Israeli Defense Forces have mobilized at least 2 reserve brigades for operational missions in the northern part of Israel. The IDF has also increased its forces in the northern sector. Reserve units have been deployed amidst rising tensions with Lebanon. IDF has mobilized 2 brigades for combat operations. Now, the Northern Nahal Brigade, that's geared up for operations. We're also told that the Etzioni Brigade has joined combat readiness in the north. The 7th Brigade is already deployed, and the Army Chief Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi has already spent time with the 7th Brigade, telling them that they need to be poised. Air Force is pounding Hezbollah strikes. It's softening the ground for Israeli ground forces to move in. Israel has also rejected global calls for a ceasefire, for a 21-day ceasefire that was proposed by the United States of America and France. Israel is defying its closest allies. The information from Lebanon so far is 700 fatalities, the injured crossing over 2,000. India Today has a man on ground. India Today's Ashraf Bani now joins me with the latest from Lebanon. Ashraf, you're in a very difficult part. If you're safe, describe to us what you see around you, what's happening.
Gaurav, I am currently in the Beirut, and Beirut has some kind of a calm because there are some unexpected aerial strikes in the Beirut city also, but only specifically to the south of Beirut, which is the stronghold of Hezbollah and their commanders. But otherwise, in the Beirut, the other parts are not yet being targeted by the Israel, but whole focus is not only on the South Lebanon, particularly, which is the stronghold of Hezbollah as of its fighters, but also in the Raqqa Valley of East. As you said, now the toll of deaths in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has already crossed 700. That is a huge, and in the decades, first time the people here in the Lebanon are seeing such kind of series of attacks from Israel. There were so many wars, particularly in the 2016 between Lebanon and the Israel. At that time, 18 years back, there was this kind of bombing by the Israel. Now, in this war, what new things are coming in? As you said, that the Israel is preparing for the ground invasion in the South Lebanon. That will be very, very tough situation for the Lebanese. The casualties can increase. Already the main links like the top leadership as well as the weaponry has been targeted by the Israel. But now,
in fact, that's the question I'm coming to, Ashraf. Israel has successfully targeted the air chief, the missile chief, and the ground forces commander of Hezbollah. So three big military commanders of Hezbollah eliminated in 3 days, and one, that Hussein Sururi had just come back from Yemen after telling Yemen how to target Israel. It just shows that Israel has pinpoint intelligence on the movement of Hezbollah commanders.
Yes, absolutely, Gaurav. That is the biggest tension among the Hezbollah fighters and leadership here in the Lebanon. That who is passing these kind of specific informations, particularly the top commanders of Hezbollah who were on the run for last 3-4 decades are being now killed and assassinated by the Israel. That only is possible due to the specific intelligence which the Israeli army has managed to penetrate not only within the population of Lebanon, but even some of the people in the ranks of Hezbollah, which is irritating very much to the Hezbollah.
Yes.
So they are trying to sideline all these means like the communication. As I was getting the inputs from the South Lebanon, that whole communication system has been now rebuilt on the wires between the Hezbollah fighters. Neither they are using the electronic communication equipment nor the mobile phones, but are once again adopting the strategy of army, whatever in the world, that is the communication on the wires. That
We are
is
getting a
being
statement.
built by
Ashraf,
the
stay with me for a moment. We are getting a statement from the Health Ministry of Lebanon, and that's a big story that's coming in. The Health Ministry in Lebanon has now confirmed with Israel's airstrikes, with relentless pounding of Lebanon by Israel, the death toll now stands at 700 plus. The injured, including several critical, are over 2,600. That's the latest information that's coming in, and this includes not just some senior commanders of the Hezbollah, but also their fighting forces. Remember earlier in that pager attack, that serial pager detonation, Hezbollah had lost a major part of its middle-rung leadership, its tactical commanders, and those fighters, they were lost. Now some of their top commanders have been lost. But Ashraf, you've reported from Lebanon before. You know the lay of the land. You've interacted even with Hezbollah leadership. Compare the Hezbollah strength to Hamas. Hezbollah is stronger. It has longer-range missiles, longer-range drones, larger number of fighters, better trained fighters. Israel's task would be very tough in case a ground invasion does take place.
Absolutely, Gaurav. That is not the easy task like what the Israel did in the Gaza. The Hezbollah is a very well-trained force by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards of Iran. They have the supervision and the command of the retired generals of the elite Iranian force, that is IRG, Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and also the members and fighters seem very dedicated as compared to the other armed forces with the Hezbollah. As during last 3 days, I am getting reports here that more and more volunteers from Syria, Iraq, and Iran are going to join the force of Hezbollah here in the Lebanon, because those all supporters of Hassan Nasrallah feel that he is being targeted, his men are being targeted. To compensate that loss, new members are being inducted in Hezbollah from Syria, Iraq, and Iran itself, because most of the imams of different sections of the Shia community have appealed their followers to join the Hezbollah in Lebanon to fight Iran, to fight Israel. So that thing is being done, and if Israel tries to invade into the South Lebanon, it will be very tough, not only for the Hezbollah, but also equally for the Israeli army. They will get tough resistance from the Hezbollah fighters who are trained, who have the latest equipment in the ground battles, and also they have the topography
Yes.
and the and the places to hide in the South Lebanon, which will be something new for the Israeli army if they
Keep tracking that story, Ashraf, and
Lebanon.
you stay safe. It's a very, very difficult battle zone from where India today's Ashraf, the first reporter on Ground Zero, is getting us these latest ground reports. But in midst of all of this, remember, both the United States and France sought a 21-day ceasefire. And information from White House seems to indicate that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had agreed to a 21-day ceasefire, at least verbally. But as soon as he landed in New York for the United Nations General Assembly, he said there's absolutely no question of a ceasefire. They've eliminated some of the top leaders of Hezbollah, and this fight will continue till the time the Israelis in northern Israel are safe from Hezbollah missile and rocket attacks. Lebanon's ministers are saying this war has to stop, or Lebanon as a country may face dire consequences. Take a look at this ground report. Ashraf reports.
Counter strikes and a trail of destruction. The Israel-Hezbollah war is spiraling. Over 1,500 have been killed since October 8th last year. An Israeli raid on Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday claimed 15 more lives, further inflaming tensions. In retaliation, the Hezbollah, backed by Iran, fired 80 rockets into Israel's northern city of Safed. But Israel's Iron Dome defense system has kept the damage largely in check. India Today's Ashraf is on the ground in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, reporting first-hand from the epicenter of the conflict, the only Indian journalist in the war zone.
Tension here is also mounting. We otherwise see the lot of activity on these seashores and on these sea lines here in the Beirut, but currently there is not any kind of a movement. People are very much we can say desperate that what is going to happen in the coming days here, not only in the Lebanon but also in the Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Mohammed, what kind of difficulties you are facing due to the ongoing war here in the Lebanon?
Israel is not just torturing Palestine, but Lebanon too. Thousands of people have been killed in Israel attack, and businesses in nearby countries affected due to Israel.
Lebanon's foreign minister, Abdallah Abu Habib, issued a desperate plea for a ceasefire, warning that his country is on the brink of collapse.
Lebanon is living through a crisis that threatens its very existence. The future of our people and prosperity are in peril, and this is a situation that requires international intervention on an urgent basis before the situation spirals out of control with a domino effect, making this crisis impossible to contain.
Israel, on the other hand, faces a new challenge. Air raid sirens in capital Tel Aviv went off as Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen fired missiles on the city, vowing solidarity with Gaza and Palestine. The Houthi attacks have sparked fears that the conflict could spill over and widen into other regions. Meanwhile, protests erupted in New York, where demonstrators labeled Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal, demanding his arrest ahead of his UN address. But Netanyahu is defiant. Arriving in the United States, Netanyahu doubled down, declaring that the Israeli military will continue pounding the Hezbollah with full force until victory is secured.
Our policy is clear. We are continuing to hit Hezbollah with full force, and we will not stop until we achieve all our goals. First and foremost, returning the residents of the north safely to their homes.
As Israel escalates its lethal strikes on Lebanon, many are wondering if Netanyahu has an exit plan, or will the war drag in more players in West Asia. With Ashraf in Beirut, Lebanon. Bureau Report, India Today.
Shifting focus to the other big story we're tracking here on India Today. A Chinese nuclear-powered submarine under construction sank at the Wuhan port. This information was released by officials in the White House. It's a big story released by officials in the United States of America. The submarine was under construction. It's the latest nuclear-powered attack submarine and it sank. It's a hugely embarrassing story for China, which seeks to massively expand its naval footprint and become a blue water navy. Now, China has 6 nuclear submarines. It has 25 submarines. It hopes to have 85 submarines by 2035, 2040. But we'll show you images, and those are images that you see. That's from Planet Labs. Satellite imagery that shows that in the Wuchang shipyard in Wuhan, the submarine sank. Taiwanese officials say that China is trying to bring the submarine out of water. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Shiv Arur for more on this big story. Shiv, this is a huge embarrassment for China that wants to rival the United States as a naval power. But if its submarines are sinking in the dock, doesn't reflect very highly on China. What more can you tell us?
Indeed, Gaurav, this is most certainly a very serious setback because shipbuilding and especially submarine building is a difficult, complicated and very expensive exercise. So a submarine sinking where it's not supposed to sink and collapsing while it's being built, is a disaster by any account. Now, this particular submarine, according to the U.S. reports, sank while it was being constructed sometime in May or June. This was the first of its class. It was a Zhao class nuclear-powered attack submarine that actually sank, the first of its class, and China was betting on this particular new generation class of nuclear-powered attack submarine, to lead the next generation of submarine operations, including, as you rightly pointed out, for its attempted domination and entry into the Indian Ocean region, where India is, of course, the predetermined power at this point of time. So it is definitely a setback for them. You also, like you rightly also said, Gaurav, it suggests that there are serious quality control and shipbuilding issues, that there may have been something more that is not being reported at this point of time. It certainly sets back submarine building plans, but it also must be borne in mind, Gaurav, that China has the largest naval force in the world at this point of time. It's also the fastest growing navy. It's got 6 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines, 6 nuclear-powered attack submarines, at least 30 to 40 diesel-electric submarines. So in terms of sheer numbers, it has a vast fleet of submarines, which is exactly the opposite of what India has. So while we look at this as a definite setback, a definite embarrassment, and in some ways even a humiliation, to the hegemonic way in which the Chinese maritime forces have been looking to build up their, battle plans. This is definitely a setback as far as that is concerned. Let's remember that China will be looking to pick up the pieces as quickly as possible.
Shiv, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. We'll track this story because China wants to be a blue water navy. It boasts of being the largest navy in the world. But is it a blue water navy, or does it have to travel a lot of ground and stretch its sea legs? That's all I have for you on 6 p.m. Prime this evening. Many thanks for watching.